I have probably the most difficult task of the day. That is the session after lunch, no? But let's see what we can do. This session is a little bit of follow-up from the last one that we have before lunch, and because of that, I'd like to invite, and also considering that that we have we had some delays in the morning and we couldn't have this Q&A session. I'd like to invite Lautaro, Emilbeck, and Mariana, so they can join us here in the table, so we can do a first round of Q&A. And also I'd like from now already to invite Belén Citoler, que es la directora director from the World Rural Forum, Alexander Shakanazarov, head of the Rural Development Division of Agriculture and Rural Development Policy Department from Georgia. If you can join us in the table, let's do something different in the afternoon, everyone here, so we can have this discussion. And also Mr. Matias Carambula, Subsecretary of the Ministry of Livestock, Agriculture and Fisheries from Uruguay. You're invited to join us in the table. Feel free to sit anywhere. Yes. And I know that Mariana has a flight departing soon, so this is why we would start with the first round of Q&A. This last session in the morning, we had a chance to hear a little bit some specific cases on how countries are working and developing policies for the family farming sector. The case of Mercosur, as a regional integration space, but also how Croatia and Kyrgyzstan are moving forward. So I open for a 15 minutes initial rounds of Q&A, and then we can start presenting new cases, so we can do a final round at the end of the hour. So the floor is open. Feel free to ask. I know we are getting back from lunch, but with the Italian espresso, I know that we have at least 15 minutes of energy with the caffeine. Anyone?
Oh, thank you again for the last presentation. I'm just remind this question which I had to Ms. Mariana. You mentioned a lot of actions what you did to promote farming in your country. I'm just wondering how your actions affected to young farmers, and did you have some measure how many young people are starting farming in your country, and if not, if yes, what was the main driven for that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Yes, we have around 160,000 farmers in our register. And last information says that around 60% of those are young farmers. As you know, Croatia is member state of the European Union, the youngest one. So we are using supports and funding from EU for very short period, but we put all efforts to generational renewal. So that means that we are using money from European funds for young farmers to kick off business. If you are a young farmer under 40 years old, you could get 75,000 euros from the budget to start the business. This is maybe the most popular measure. Another measure which was proposed by my side, and this is national measure, it's not connected with EU, but maybe EU will take it and bring up to the EU level. That was my amendment to state budget, because I proposed to establish like joint investment between state and municipalities to join money and help young people at the villages to buy houses. That means that if you offer to somebody who is very young and had established family to build home, to have home at the village, that means that those family will stay at the village, that you will have people who will work on land, who will develop agriculture, but also if young family has a house, it means that they will probably have more than one children. So this measure supports also demographical goals. And this is now very, very popular. I spoke with Christoph Hansen, Commissioner, about this measure, and they will probably copy this to EU level and some other countries.
Martin?
Yeah, I also have a question to Mariana, and I actually had planned to ask the question in the afternoon session 4, which is about access to land, because I also noticed the support to the housing and providing support for young people to buy houses in rural areas, or to build houses in rural areas. I would like to ask about the land market. Do you give any priority to young people? I heard what you were explaining about the state land. So I guess this gives, if I understood it right, that gives more points, so they have an advantage. But if they buy land not from the state, but in the land market as such, do you regulate the land market, or are you considering to regulate the land market in the way that you give advantage to those who are farming the land? Could be young farmers, but it could also be small farms. So that would be my question. And also, do you have any plans? Because I know Croatia, similar to many of the other countries in the Western Balkans, have farm structures that are very much fragmented. So you have each farm belongs to many small parcels. Are you considering to reintroduce land consolidation instruments in Croatia? Thank you.
When the law about agricultural land was changed, we put amendment and that was adopted, that young farmers could receive more points than others. And if you collect more points, that means that you will have priority to access to state-owned land. This land is not for selling, it's for renting. But it's now too short time to explain what kind of models we already have. But we also establish schemes for young farmers. So if they buying private land, or if they need to establish some infrastructure, or if they want to build some processing object on their farms, they could receive loans which are subsidized by the state. So for them, this is a huge grace period and very, very small, Irena, kako se kaže kamata? Yes, interest. And we also support this by other measures, because local farmers could get more points, and women farmers also. So if you are young, if you local, and if you women, you will have priority.
Perfect. Anyone else?
I will have a question if no one else. Yeah, I'll have a question again to Mariana and to Lautaro. Like, if we speak about the Mercosur, what were the biggest challenges that you faced in terms of, aligning different national agendas to the activities that, you kind of support within the Mercosur structures? You support family farming. So what were the biggest challenges in in terms of aligning the national agendas? And to Mariana, like, what are the, or are there discussions on the EU level about the family farming at all, and where these discussions are taking place and at which stage they are? Thank you.
Yes, we have huge discussion on EU level, and this week I will go in Brussels to Agri Committee, which will be organized in the European Parliament with representatives of national Agri committees from national parliaments. Discussion is about future common agricultural policy and future multi-annual financial framework. So as you know, European Union put a lot of efforts now on defense. Much more money will go to defense, and we fight that we keep money for agriculture. It is discussion also about two pillars, because CIP is now based on two pillars. This is incentives and or direct payments and rural development. And we have signals that rural development will be cut, which we recognize as a huge problem. So this discussion is ongoing, but if we talk about small farmers, I think that small farmers will benefit from new CIP, because new commissioner agree with some of us that we need to put a cap on amount of incentives. What that means, that you have some budget, and if all money or 80% of the money goes to the huge farm, to the big farmers, then small farmers are in very bad position, and it's happening all the time. So now it will probably change. We are discussing what amount of the money will be capped, but hopefully we will have better redistribution of the money to small and medium farms in Europe, because they are essential for the for the success of agricultural policy.
Lautaro.
El alineamiento nacional a nivel subregional, primero, mantener la institucionalidad pública especializada para agricultura familiar y mejorarla. Hemos tenido en los últimos años un proceso de desmonte de políticas y estamos en una etapa de reconstrucción en muchos países de institucionalidad para la agricultura familiar nuevamente. Entonces, hay una prioridad de volver a reconstruir, pero mejor, ¿no? Innovando también. Lo segundo es garantir los presupuestos públicos adecuados para la agricultura familiar a nivel de los países y una incidencia a nivel subregional. Sin un presupuesto equilibrado, adecuado, focalizado en la agricultura familiar, es muy complejo llevar adelante políticas de escala y transformadoras. Y tercer elemento de común acuerdo a nivel regional son dos agendas, que es cambio climático y agroecología, que hay un alineamiento de los países en la importancia de construir una plataforma de políticas e instrumentos adecuados, y lo que tiene que ver con el acceso a la tierra desde una perspectiva más innovadora, con otros mecanismos, dispositivos, instrumentos de acceso a la tierra, que tiene una particularidad con foco en juventud también. Esto lo estamos haciendo con un alineamiento central que es el decenio. Todos los países del Mercosur tienen sus planes de agricultura familiar nacional y hay una estrategia subregional en el marco del decenio. Sería el paraguas de estas prioridades.
Thanks, Lautaro. And during the next sessions, we'll be able to go deeper a little bit, especially in this issue, this topic of land access, but also the youth topic, no? But I think it's also important, this relationship with the parliament, no? Generally, sometimes we are used to see these discussions of public policies more linked to the head of governments and the executive. But there is an important linkage with the parliament that also helps on assuring resources, assuring the budget, and allowing that the public policy can be implemented. And to keep these discussions and these reflections, the idea is to have 3 more cases to learn from them. The first one would be from Georgia. And I apologize beforehand on my pronunciation, but Mr. Alexander Shakhnazarov will show a little bit on how family farmers in the midst of agri-food system transformation in Georgia. Please, I'll also be asked to be a little bit tough on the time control, so we don't get too late for the other sessions. So we have a 10-minute space. This way we can also have more time for a Q&A session at the end of the 3 presentations. Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, distinguished guests, good afternoon. My name is Alexander, Head of Rural Development Unit at the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture of Georgia. On behalf of Georgia, in my presentation, I will try to outline the state of Georgia's agri-food sector and ongoing transformation of its agri-food system, and the place and the role of the family farmers in this process. Georgia's agri-food sector demonstrates quite a steady pace of growth, reflected in record levels of gross output of agribusiness and output of the agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector. Over the last decade, the gross output of agriculture increased by 93%, reaching a record level in 2024, approximately $6.5 billion. The output of agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector also increased by 70%. Reaching approximately $3 billion. And meanwhile, the Georgian agri-food industry is becoming increasingly export-oriented, demonstrating a 174% increase over the last decade. In 2024, agri-food exports reached a record high of 1.7 billion in 2024, with export reaching 107 nations worldwide. The ongoing transformation of the agri-food system in my country has primarily driven this economic growth. I will highlight 3 key dimensions of this transformation of the agri-food system and sector. First is the establishment of a general legal framework and gradually aligning with the EU acquis in the area of agriculture and rural development, and also food safety and phytosanitary. In 2024, the Parliament of Georgia adopted the law of Georgia on agriculture and rural development, which outlines key policy priorities and goals, as well as the governance structure of the agriculture and rural development policy in Georgia, including the institutional setup, relevant strategies and action plans that we follow. In terms of policy making, the law also provides vital definitions, such as a definition of a farmer, of an agricultural household, etc. In addition, since the entry into the force of the EU-Georgia Association Agreement and of the DCFTA, the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Agreement with the European Union, Georgia has been gradually transposing EU regulations and directives in the field of food safety, veterinary and phytosanitary policy. The second dimension of this agri-food system transformation in Georgia is having a clear strategic vision, as well as the coordination, monitoring, and evaluation of this policy. Georgia has several strategic documents in place, including the strategy, which is 2021-27 Agriculture and Rural Development Strategy, and its action plans. Also, we have in place Georgia's national pathway for sustainable food systems, which was adopted with the support from the FAO. To facilitate coordination, monitoring, and evaluation efforts, we have in place We have established the Interagency Coordination Council and the Civil Committee mechanisms, which are very much similar to the monitoring committees that are in the EU member states. The implementation of the strategy and action plan is monitored through the electronic monitoring and evaluation system, which ensures data validation and data disaggregation. And the third dimension of this transformation is gradual establishment of the paying agency with the relevant integrated administration and control system, so-called IACS, like in EU member states, including pharma and animal registries, as well as the LPIS, the land parcel identification system. Family farming may be a new policy concept for Georgia, but the family labor-reliant agriculture has been part of our agriculture for decades and for centuries due to various socioeconomic factors and also political and geopolitical events that took place. Land fragmentation and as a result, low access to finance for our smallholders are two critical gaps. Our latest agricultural census was conducted just last year, and we don't yet know the exact data. However, based on the results of our previous agrarian census, which was conducted in 2014, there were more than 500,000 agricultural holdings in Georgia with less than 800,000 hectares of agricultural land in possession. In other words, it means that on average, an agricultural holding possessed less than 1.4 hectares of land. We should also note that generational renewal of family farmers and gender gap are also two additional gaps that we have and two additional challenges that we face. As just 6% of agricultural landholders are less than 40 years old, and only 20% of agricultural land is operated by women holders. But we may say that these challenges are not unique for Georgia, and to a certain extent, and based on the discussion that we heard in the previous sessions, all countries face these issues, and these challenges are not unique. Now I would like to briefly outline the key dimensions of the state support to our farmers that we provide from the state side. Our state supports measures, we could aggregate these measures that we provide into 4 categories. The first one is investments in primary production, which includes machinery, setting up and modernization of farms, investments in mitigating the effects of adverse climatic events, investments in development of the storage and processing infrastructure. The third group could be the agri-insurance schemes that we provide to the farmers. And the fourth one is technical support schemes, which includes measures to promote cooperation among farmers and also to promote better access to markets. And also we have specific measures, and we also try to give additional incentives to farmers groups, particularly agricultural cooperatives, as I said, to enhance collaboration among them. And we provide particular incentives in the form of scholarships to successful students in agriculture to support generational renewal. As a developing nation, the collaboration and support we receive from the UNFAO in particular are crucial, particularly when it comes to addressing gender and generational gaps. Through the project Fostering Economic Empowerment of Women Farmers through the Farmer Field Schools approach, FAO aimed to enhance the economic capacities of women farmers and for them to become powerful agents of change. The project targeted women farmers in conflict-affected regions of Georgia. In total, 61 farmer field schools were established, and more than 1,000 women small-scale daily farmers completed annual training. They also began using good hygiene practices and good manufacturing practices supported by the equipment provided by the project. In addition, more than 2,500 vulnerable livestock owners received agricultural inputs under the COVID-19 response scheme. FAO and our Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture of Georgia are successfully collaborating in organizing annual agricultural Olympiads. We are young agriculture specialists, students, and farmers are provided with the opportunity to test their knowledge, showcase their skills, and strengthen their position in the labor market. In a nationwide initiative to boost innovation and youth engagement for a green agriculture sector, FAO, in partnership with the Environment and Information and Education Center and our ministry, conducted an ideathon. The event aimed to generate innovative solutions for climate-resilient agriculture in Georgia and raise awareness on sustainable practices. Participants submitted climate-friendly ideas, contributing to the transformation of Georgia's agriculture sector into a more low-emission and resilient one. And now very briefly about final thoughts about the path forward to addressing the challenges of our family farmers and smallholders due to demographic aging. We think that the focus of our policy should be shifted from retaining young people, and it should be shifted to attracting young people in rural areas, as unfortunately there are not many young people left in our villages. We should also continue progress on establishing new farmers' cooperation mechanisms in Georgia, such as producer organizations and interbranch organizations, and we try to follow the guidelines provided in the EU regulations on this issue. And finally, exploit the full potential of newly adopted law in Georgia on agriculture and rural development to build on the possible future definition of the family farming, as we don't have a definition on that one at this point. And as the final remark, we really appreciate FAO's decades-long support in Georgia, and I personally hope that this collaboration continues in future, because, as I said, we are a developing nation. We need always additional financing to address these challenges, and the FAO support is really important in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think this path forward on how to attract young people, it's an important shift in how we are discussing policies towards family farming. It's something that we also start discussing back in Latin America's process, but it's a different way to think on the public policy. Instead of keeping, it's attracting, and requires new tools, requires new strategies that will be interesting to see how this move forward over the next years. To keep these discussions and also thinking this process of thinking ahead and the path forward, I'd like to invite Belén Citoler, the director of the World Rural Forum, also to show us how the forum is supporting national policies process under the framework of the UNDFF. Is it possible to do it from here with the... Yes.
Good afternoon. I would like to especially thank FAO for the opportunity to be in this interregional dialogue with all of you, with very good friends and also hopefully new friends. So allow me to start by presenting a bit the work that we do, the World Rural Forum, for those that might not be so familiar yet. The World Rural Forum is a global network mainly composed by family farming organizations from all the continents. We have members, main regional farmers organizations in Africa, in Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and the Pacific, and Europe. It's not here, but we have members in Europe too. Grouping 75 million family farmers in 90 countries. We campaigned for the declaration of the Decade of Family Farming along with many partners, we succeed in the declaration of the Decade of Family Farming. And for us, it's a very important tool because it helps the recognition of family farming as not as a beneficiary of project, but as a strategic ally in addressing the main global challenges that we face today in terms of food systems, transformation, climate change, and many others. No? So this is a very important recognition to us. We work, there's a global action plan on the decade with key pillars, and we focus mainly our work in some of these pillars, in building inclusive policies for family farming, improving the policy frameworks, some of the priorities that you already mentioned, no? The empowering young farmers and generational turnover, promoting gender equality in family farming, climate resilient food systems, the contribution of family farming to this climate agenda, and the strengthening of family farmers organizations to be drivers of change in this framework. At the national level, at the country level, we promote the national committees of family farming, which are multi-stakeholder policy dialogue platforms that support the dialogues in the countries around family farming issues, and they are basically or mainly led by civil society, by family farmers organizations, that in dialogue with the key stakeholders, government, parliamentarians, international organizations, and others in the country, promote sound policies to support family farming. There are 45 national committees of family farming, and they group around 2,600 organizations, most of them family farmers organizations. And I would like to share with you some examples of the support to the national processes. In particular, since this is the scope of the dialogue in Europe and Central Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean. So I would start by Spain also. In Spain, there's a National Committee of Family Farming that was created a few years ago. It groups 21 organizations, and is a good example because it gathers farmers organizations, consumers, environmental organizations, academia, journalists, different stakeholders, and World Rural Forum supports the process of the Secretariat. It developed a national action plan in 2023 to promote the decade in Spain with 10 key priority areas and proposals. And one of these priority proposals is referred to having a long family farming in Spain. There are some at the sub-regional level. We have, of course, the common agrarian policy, but we need also a specific recognition of family farming at the national level. So this is a process ongoing, and there are public consultations launched by the government, and the National Committee of Family Farming is very actively engaged with all these stakeholders to provide inputs to this new law. We have Kyrgyzstan, that the protagonists are here, so I'm not going to, I'm not the most entitled to, to speak for Kyrgyzstan, but it's a process that we've been supporting together since the creation of the National Committee in 2019. And it is, the characteristic is how it gathers different types of farmers' organizations, from water users, forest, and pastoralists. This is really a good thing that or added value that the National Committee has, and how since then has worked very closely with the government to promote all the measures that the representatives of the government explained, and resulted in the adoption of a National Action Plan on Family Farming, now the discussion of the Family Farming Law, and all that also with the support of FAO, the World Rural Forum, different entities, no, that it was also mentioned the technical or financial support that we can also provide to these processes, and it is a process that I really see a huge change in the recognition of family farming in Kyrgyzstan at the policy level from when the National Committee started and all what is been going on with the government. So that is really great. And in the Dominican Republic, to bring an example from Latin America, there's also a national committee, there's a national action plan for the decade, many laws that have been promoted since then. I would like also to bring this case because it's important also for the implementation, which is then the challenge. No, we have the framework, but then how we really implement it is that the territorialization of the processes. So how these national policies can connect to the local and to the territorial processes, also in the policy dialogue. No, bringing all the local entities together to develop the national action plan and to strengthen the local capacity. So this would be another example. There are many others, but I know that time is really a constraint, so I'm not going to go into more details, but of course we can share other experiences. So I would just like to share with you 3 takes away, no, of this presentation. That the decade is helping strengthening the policy frameworks that support family farming. We talk about innovation, the need for innovation. So the decade is bringing policy innovation in many countries. The relevance of the multi-stakeholder dialogue, we have seen it in previous examples also, and supporting the capacities of farmers' organizations to effectively and actively engage in these policy processes. And finally, that from other entities, sometimes seed funds, very joint initiatives, just to think how we can align our efforts, can catalyze policy developments in the countries and really advance the national priorities. So I think this is something that we can learn from these processes, and hopefully they can be an example for other countries, and we can scale up all these efforts. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Belen. And I think this role of farmers' organizations in promoting the advocacy process and supporting the work that we do in FAO in the different governments with agendas like the UNDFF, but other processes before that, the International Year of Family Farming. These are direct outcomes from this work that we have in farmers' organizations. Actually, tomorrow we have a specific session also to go a little bit deeper on the role that farmers' organizations play at the advocacy level, but also on implementing actions, no, that goes on this territorialization that you've mentioned. And now I would give the floor to Matias Carambula, the Vice Minister of the Minister of Agriculture, of Livestock, Agriculture and Fisheries from Uruguay, in this idea that we have for these interregional dialogues of bringing experience from other regions. We are lucky to have here Matias, and thank you very much, and also Lautaro for the availability of being with us this week, so we can share and promote this dialogue space with other experiences from here on the European and Central Asia. Matias, 10 minutos y él pasa.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Voy a hablar en español. Primero agradecer a la FAO y particularmente a la FAO del Cono Sur por la invitación y sobre todo felicitarlos por esta cuestión del diálogo y el encuentro. Nos hace bien el encuentro para conocernos, para conocer nuestras experiencias, para aprender también de los errores incluso de la construcción de políticas públicas, pero sobre todo para construir ese escenario desafiante, pero profundamente necesario de esa relación entre los estados y la producción familiar. Así que bueno, muchas gracias y felicitaciones por la iniciativa. voy a estar en diferentes momentos de los 2 encuentros que tenemos estos días, entonces voy a hacer una presentación muy general sobre el proceso de construcción de política pública hacia la producción familiar en Uruguay. Además, la presentación de Luis en la mañana y Lautaro ya avanzaron bastante sobre Latinoamérica y la REAF, entonces voy a focalizar, cuidando los tiempos también, en la experiencia uruguaya. A nivel latinoamericano, solo estas 3 cuestiones que me parece importante. Hoy lo hablaba Luis en términos de soberanía alimentaria, pero soberanía nacional. Me parecía importante ese primer dato de que el 50% de las frutas y los vegetales los abastece en nuestro país, en Latinoamérica, la producción familiar. Ese es uno de los indicadores de hablar en términos de soberanía alimentaria y soberanía nacional, porque el alimento es pilar de la soberanía también de las naciones. Segundo contexto para hablar de producción familiar en Latinoamérica, pero sobre todo en Uruguay, es la importancia a veces invisibilizada de la producción familiar como modo de producción que genera empleo y trabajo. En ese caso son 73 millones de personas para Latinoamérica, el 70% de la población rural, que conforman ese modo de producción que, entre otras razones de ser, también genera trabajo y empleo, y a veces no se visibiliza esa dimensión central que tiene la producción familiar. En países como los latinoamericanos que tienen problemas para la generación de empleo, bueno, la producción familiar es generadora de empleo, y ese número a nivel latinoamericano me parece importante. Y el tercero, son casi 18 millones de productores que conforman la producción familiar en Latinoamérica, y eso representa el 80% del total de productores agropecuarios en nuestra región. Eso le da una centralidad importante, no solo en términos de soberanía, sino también en términos territoriales, desarrollo de territorio, desarrollo de nuestros países. A su vez, la otra imagen que es importante también ubicarla es a la producción familiar campesina indígena en nuestro continente, ubicada en un contexto de profunda desigualdad y sobre todo en procesos de concentración de la tierra, del trabajo, de la renta y también del poder. Creo que es importante ubicar lo que estamos discutiendo del lugar del Estado y la política pública en los escenarios no solo globales de tanta tensión, incertidumbre y angustia, sino particularmente en esta mirada de los procesos de desarrollo del capital, que las identidades que nos muestran es un proceso acelerado y profundo de concentración, no solo de la tierra, sino también de la tierra y desde la tierra, del trabajo, de la riqueza, del capital y de las relaciones de poder. Esta es una imagen para ubicar nomás en términos de porcentuales la importancia de la producción familiar en los diferentes países de Latinoamérica. En el caso uruguayo representa el 64% de los productores agropecuarios del Uruguay son productores de tipo familiar, y ahí está ese mismo número o porcentaje para el resto de Latinoamérica. En el caso del Mercosur, y acá voy a complementar la presentación de Lautaro, me parece importante esta cuestión de la construcción institucional en torno a las políticas de la producción familiar, y particularmente quería destacar el aporte que ha sido la REAF como órgano institucional del Mercosur, es asesora del Mercosur, la Red Especializada de la Agricultura Familiar. Ahí también agrego la importancia que ha tenido la FAO, el ICA, en la construcción conjunta de políticas públicas hacia la producción familiar. En el caso de la REAF, a mí me gustaría señalar 5 elementos, además de los que presentó Lautaro en la mañana, que han permitido en este periodo 2004-2025 ese proceso de construcción. En primer lugar, el trabajo de los países del Mercosur a través de la REAF permitió la construcción de una agenda, de un registro y de un proyecto de la agricultura familiar. Esa es una primera dimensión que me parece que aporta en esta mirada de 20 años de política pública. La segunda, fue la incorporación de una propuesta de co-construcción en la política pública con un rol central y protagónico de las organizaciones de productores. Creo que es una segunda identidad del proceso de aporte en este ámbito regional del Mercosur, es la co-construcción de la política pública. Tercer elemento es que la producción familiar, como central en la construcción de política pública más allá de la política agropecuaria, creo que uno de los aportes de este proceso regional fue dimensionar que el Estado y la política pública para la producción familiar debe trascender, se basa, es un pilar, pero no solo la política agropecuaria, sino por el modo de producción, las características, las necesidades también de la producción familiar y la necesidad de pensar política pública más allá de la institucionalidad agropecuaria. Cuarto elemento distintivo del proceso de la REAF es que a través de la formación y el intercambio, como una forma de estrategia de maduración y profundización de este proceso, incorporando formación tanto a nivel de intercambio a nivel de regiones y países, formación e intercambio a nivel de instituciones y los técnicos del Estado, porque cuando hablamos de Estado y política pública es necesaria la formación de cuadros técnicos que trasciendan incluso los pedidos de gobiernos, los diferentes gobiernos de un país. Y el tercero, la cuestión de formación de cuadros de las organizaciones. Eso es un elemento bien importante, que en todo este proceso, 20 años, hay un proceso de formación de cuadros de las organizaciones que le dan también sustento y proyección al Estado y a la política pública. Y el quinto elemento de aporte de la REAF en este proceso es esa cuestión de la multidimensionalidad y la integralidad necesaria para construir política pública de la producción familiar. En ese proceso, 2005-2025, tres elementos de lo que fue esta película de construcción de política pública en el caso uruguayo. El primero, en 20 años se construyó la cuestión de la asistencia del actor de este modo de producción. Hace 20 años en Uruguay se hablaba de pequeños productores, medianos productores, grandes productores. El inicio de la política pública uno lo puede buscar en el 2005, primer gobierno del Frente Amplio en Uruguay, con Tabaré Vázquez como presidente y José Mujica como ministro de Ganadería. Desde ahí se empieza a construir este relato de la existencia de un actor que es un actor diferente, pero a su vez integrado en la producción agropecuaria y que es un actor económico, productivo, social y político. Ese es uno de los elementos que caracteriza esta película de la construcción de la política pública hacia la agricultura familiar en Uruguay. El segundo elemento es la construcción institucional en lo que hace al Estado y la política pública. Entendemos esta cuestión de ir construyendo un ecosistema de la política pública en la producción familiar y ahí señalo 3 o 4 características. Una, indudablemente, es haber reconocido en el Mercosur, a través de la REAF, hay una construcción institucional regional que es un primer elemento de esta construcción de un ecosistema institucional que caracteriza y es necesario además para pensar la política pública en la producción familiar. La segunda, se creó en el Uruguay la Dirección de Desarrollo Rural dentro del Ministerio de Ganadería, que es la subsecretaría en términos más regionales, que construye, dirige la política pública hacia la producción familiar. Tercero ejemplo, a través de en el 2019 se crea la Ley Nacional que promueve las bases agroecológicas para la producción agropecuaria, es una ley, y así varias acumulaciones de leyes o marcos normativos que le dan diseño institucional y lugar institucional a la producción familiar. Tercero, una serie de proyectos y programas que al fin y al cabo han sido escuela de aprendizaje y acumulación en la construcción de un proyecto que es la producción familiar. Entonces, la mirada de película, las cosas no surgen espontáneamente, sino en el caso uruguayo es una construcción de 20 años de política pública en la cual las identidades de esa película, ese proceso, son la asistencia como actor, la construcción de institucionalidad o ese ecosistema institucional que permite pensar y proyectar y construir la política pública, y el tercero, la experiencia a través de programas y proyectos, que es lo que le da a la experiencia el sostén para pensar un escenario futuro. Hoy en día, y pensando en el periodo 2025-2030, que es el periodo actual de gobierno, en el cual tenemos la responsabilidad del Ministerio de Ganadería, Agricultura y Pesca, hay un pilar central, y que en eso también es la construcción de una película, que es el diseño de la agricultura familiar, los 7 lineamientos que se definieron en su momento. Nosotros ahí, tomando como referencia esa película, esa construcción y ese proceso de acumulación de política pública, hoy tenemos 7 pilares de construcción de la política pública para este quinquenio, y hay 3 pilares que son transversales a esos 7. El primero es el derecho a la alimentación. Latinoamérica es parte de su tragedia. Es un país productor y exportador es una región, un continente productor y exportador de alimentos para el mundo, pero es de los continentes con mayor desigualdad y con mayores dificultades de acceso al alimento para una parte importante de su población, incluido Uruguay. Uruguay tiene un 20% de la población que tiene inseguridad alimentaria y focalizada principalmente en las niñeces. Es una tragedia para un país como el Uruguay. Entonces, el primer pilar de la construcción de política pública para estos 5 años es la alimentación como un derecho. Eso se está trabajando para que sea parte de un marco normativo y en este periodo, probablemente en poco tiempo, ingresar una ley que reconozca el derecho a la alimentación como un pilar de la democracia uruguaya. Entonces, un primer pilar, esa también construcción normativa de reconocer que la alimentación es un derecho en nuestro país, y ese va a ser uno de los pilares centrales de la política diferenciada hacia la producción familiar, reconociendo ese modo de producción como un pilar central de la producción de alimentos y la soberanía alimentaria. Segundo pilar, el acceso a la tierra, pero en este caso y a través del Instituto de Colonización, en este periodo, no es solo el acceso, sino en este caso es la escala de producción para la producción familiar. Una de las limitantes que tienen los productores familiares no es solo el acceso, sino también es la escala. Entonces, en este periodo la política va a ser, además del acceso, también lograr mayor escala en la producción familiar a través de una política pública de acceso a la tierra para lograr escala en la producción familiar. Y tiene también un corte sectorial dirigido a la ganadería, a la producción de carne vacuna y a la lechería. Y a su vez, el tercer corte en la política de tierra, una perspectiva de género y juventud. O sea, la política de tierra en este periodo es una política que en el Uruguay tiene más de 70 años, está focalizada, o las diferencias van a ser lograr mayor escala en los productores familiares que ya están, focalizada en 2 rubros centrales en la producción familiar, como es la ganadería y la lechería. Tercer nivel, una política sectorial de género y juventud asociada al acceso a la tierra. Tercer pilar de la política para estos 5 años es el mercado. Y ahí uno de los pilares centrales del acceso a los mercados de la producción familiar es el sistema de compras públicas de alimentos. Hay una diversidad de herramientas que particularmente en el caso de Brasil hemos aprendido mucho, he conocido mucho, pero también los mercados de cercanías y también la búsqueda y exploración de la posibilidad de acuerdo de mercados regionales de nuestro país en torno a la producción familiar. Cuarto pilar, construcción de un sistema público de extensión rural y asesoramiento técnico, que en este caso va a tener 3 programas puntuales de extensión y asesoramiento técnico. Uno de ellos es el programa Procría, es un programa destinado a la producción familiar ganadera. El segundo es un programa de manejo integral en la horticultura y fruticultura, incorporando prácticas agroecológicas en lo que hace un programa de extensión y asesoramiento técnico en la horticultura y fruticultura. Y el tercero, un programa de transición agroecológica, en esa una mirada más genérica, varios rubros, y va a ser otro de los pilares de esta construcción o avance en lo que es un sistema público de extensión rural y asesoramiento técnico. Cuarto pilar, quinto, el fortalecimiento de las organizaciones. Y ahí con un concepto que mañana lo vamos a hablar un poco más, la idea de la cooperación para la autonomía va a ser un eje central en el apoyo al fortalecimiento de las organizaciones. Sexto pilar, la cuestión de la ciencia, la tecnología y la innovación, pero focalizada en los sistemas de producción, y ahí va a haber un programa de apoyo a la incorporación de ciencia, tecnología y producción en la producción familiar. Séptimo eje y último, la cuestión de los derechos y los servicios para la población rural y la producción familiar. El acceso a la educación, la salud, la vivienda, como un pilar también de la política pública hacia la producción familiar. Los tres ejes transversales que conforman esta política pública de 5 años, 2025-2030, la política sectorial de género en el agro, es una política transversal a toda la política agropecuaria, la política hacia la juventud rural y el tercer eje transversal a la construcción institucional de 5 años de política pública de la producción familiar es la sostenibilidad, el cambio climático y los recursos naturales como un eje transversal en la política pública. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Matthias, and I think it's really exciting to hear the plans. No, it's a government that has initiated in marzo, arrancaron, no? So it's just starting a 5-year period with very concrete priorities, and I think this idea of family farming as one of the pillars for the national sovereignty of Uruguay, something that that's interesting to see, how this is internalized as a public policy guidelines. We have time for one round of questions. I would take 2 from the floor and then open for answer here for not delaying the next session on land access, one of the pillars that we have heard from the different presentations. So the floor is open. Don't be shy.
Boa tarde, Alfredo Campos, da Confederação Nacional de Agricultura de Portugal e também da Via Campesina. Sou da FAO por mais esta iniciativa de promoção da agricultura familiar e saúdo a FAO pela primeira vez ter tradução para português, o que é muito bom nestes anos todos. Ouvi com atenção os diversos oradores que fizeram diferentes abordagens e de diferentes regiões do mundo. E eu creio que há uma situação quase igual, que é o grande número de agricultores familiares que existem em cada país é inversamente proporcional à área que detêm. Com pequenas variações. No meu país, por exemplo, Portugal, 90% das explorações da pequena e média agricultura, da agricultura familiar, têm 4,5% da área. Eu creio que o principal problema da agricultura familiar é o modo de produção dominante, um modo de produção intensivo, extensivo, deslocalizado, industrializado, com um peso crescente das grandes cadeias de distribuição. E, no caso da União Europeia, em termos médios, o agricultor tem 20% para si do que o consumidor paga pelos alimentos. Destes 20%, 75% são custos de produção, o que quer dizer que por cada 100 euros que o consumidor paga, o agricultor apenas tem para viver com a sua família 5. Nesta escala, na cadeia de valor, a indústria tem 30% aproximadamente e a grande distribuição 50%. E eu creio que aqui é que está o grande problema. A cadeia de valor, é o sistema produtivo que existe, um sistema produtivo predador dos recursos, predador da natureza e que agora, a propósito do combate às alterações climáticas, também se viram muitas vezes contra os agricultores quando, para a instalação de grandes centrais de painéis voltaicos ou de mineração de lítio, nos roubam as terras. É este sistema que é o principal inimigo da agricultura familiar. E dizer apenas que de alguns governos há programas dirigidos a setores específicos, poucos têm políticas transversais, políticas nacionais de promoção da agricultura familiar. E eu creio que o principal é que estas políticas públicas consigam garantir preços justos aos agricultores. Creio que o agricultor não precisa de subsídios se tiver preços justos. E esta, creio eu, que é a questão principal da agricultura familiar. Disse.
Obrigado, thank you. Any other comment or questions from the floor? Otherwise, we will close this session. One.
Just a question. Thanks you so much for the experience from Uruguay. Super interesting for all of us. One question about the extension system. It's one of the, I think, the fourth pillar or the fourth pillar that you have, the extension system. How you use traditional knowledge in the extension system, as traditional knowledge is so key and important in the agroecology approach, and what is the role of traditional knowledge and farmers' knowledge in general in the extension system? Thank you so much.
Thank you, and with that we close. I pass the floor to the Vice Minister.
Es una buena pregunta. Primero, en relación a los precios justos que planteaba el representante de Vía Campesina de Portugal, hay una cuestión de la intermediación. En el caso uruguayo, es el costo de la intermediación y esa distancia que hay entre lo que recibe el productor y lo que paga el consumidor. Como ejemplo, en la horticultura, fruticultura en Uruguay, puede representar hasta el 70% del valor final del producto. O sea, lo que recibe el productor es un 30% del precio que paga el consumidor. Y ahí en el medio está todo el costo de distribución de intermediación. La pregunta, es un desafío que nos planteamos para este periodo, incorporar alguna serie de experiencias que había en programas públicos que incorporaban el asesoramiento técnico como un concepto más tradicional difusionista. Para este periodo, y aprovechando 3 programas que estamos construyendo, algunos de ellos ya llevan más de un periodo anterior, es justamente incorporar una perspectiva de la coinnovación y la co-construcción del conocimiento y las prácticas agropecuarias. Y el conocimiento tradicional, no solo en el programa de transición agroecológica, sino también en el programa vinculado a la ganadería, a la fase de cría, incorpora conceptualmente el lugar del conocimiento local. Está planteado como un diálogo entre el conocimiento tradicional y el conocimiento científico, y conceptualmente se posiciona desde ahí. Veremos dentro de un año cómo funciona eso, pero por lo menos en la parte conceptual, política, de lo que entendemos de este sistema de extensión rural y asistencia técnica, incorpora desde una perspectiva de la co-innovación, de la co-construcción, el conocimiento tradicional. Es un desafío, no es sencillo, pero bueno, en un año empezaremos a evaluar. Esto ya está empezando ahora, en este año, los 3 programas. Y bueno, evaluaremos un poco cómo incorporamos el conocimiento tradicional en una perspectiva de la extensión rural más integral.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Belén. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Alexander, for this session. This was the last one in terms of this showcasing of cases from the countries. Now we'll start some thematic tables to go a little bit deeper on topics that were identified as priority. I pass the floor to Martin, who will be moderating the next session, and I thank you again for this panel. And apologize, Martin, we go a little bit, we went 7 minutes on your time, but I know we will be able to push it.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Very interesting discussions. I suggest that the panelists, you stay where you are now, and I will invite you then, I will give a short introduction to the topic of the last session of the day. So welcome to this final session of the first day of the Interregional Dialogue. In addition of coordinating the FAO program supporting smallholders, family farms and youth, I'm also land tenure officer in the regional office. So I am happy that we also could squeeze in a session on access to land here, and I think we already heard it mentioned several times also from the colleagues from Latin America. So I think also here it can be very interesting to exchange experiences and see, and I see some of the challenges are the same, but there are certainly also big differences. So I will first, in a few slides, introduce the topic and from the perspective of Europe and Central Asia, and then I will introduce the members of the panel. So, we will talk about access to land, but we will also talk about generational renewal of family farms, because the two things are very much connected. The generational renewal of family farms is, and when the family farm is changing from one generation to the next, is often the time when substantial investments are being made in the farms. So young farmers often need to invest in their farms when they're taking them over to be able to have income and also a livelihood that is similar to what other younger people living in urban areas can have. And the access to land is one of the things that to additional land is, one thing is to take over the small farms of the family, but additional land is often needed in this process so that we can support also the small farms of becoming more commercial and specializing as well. So, and we see also there is the evidence that the farmers that perceive that they have secure tenure rights, they are also much more inclined to actually invest in their farms. So there is a strong connection also between not only access to land, but also the security of the land rights that people perceive that they have and how they then invest in their farms. So in Europe and Central Asia is a very diverse region also when it comes to access to land and the functionality of the agricultural land markets. Globally, we know that inadequate and insecure tenure rights to natural resources often lead to extreme poverty, hunger, and instability in general. We already saw some of the figures in Natalia's presentation about family farming in Europe and Central Asia. But just to repeat here, because I think it is important also for the understanding the background in Europe and Central Asia, in particular in the program countries that we are supporting from the regional office in Budapest, that in countries like Albania, Armenia, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, North Macedonia, Tajikistan, between 95 and 99% of all farms are smaller than 5 hectares. And the difficulties that we have with the access to land in the region are really quite different. We have, in some countries, land prices. I think that is a big issue in the EU member countries, the high land prices for young people to be able to both to buy land, but also to take over the family farm, because of the high value that you have siblings maybe, and they also have, it's about inheritance. It's very complicated also how to, and then we have other countries where the land markets are very weak or non-functioning at all. We even have countries where there are no land markets because the state owns still all the agricultural land. So there was no land reform or no privatization process. This is the situation in 4 of the 5 countries in Central Asia. And the farm structures, they are, in some of the countries, and that's a new set of problems, for example, Ukraine, in Belarus, the Soviet-style large-scale state farms continue to operate. So there's also zero access to any private farmers, small or big. In Ukraine, it's very difficult for small farms to have access to land and young farmers because the legislation and the policies are protecting the large corporate farms that already dominate the farm structures. Ukraine has farms that are 200 or 500,000 hectares. So this is completely crazy when we talk about countries where 2 hectares is an average. So the region is really very diverse. And we also have most of these countries where they did land reform and where the farm structures are the result of the land reforms. These are the countries in Central and Eastern Europe where land fragmentation is a big issue, and it leads to low productivity and low competitiveness of the small farms. What does this land fragmentation mean? The map to the left is from Albania, land consolidation pilot project we did a few years ago, where you can see an orthophoto with an overlay of a cadastral map, so you can see the parcel sizes. And the average parcel size in this village in Albania was very similar actually to the average parcel size in many of our program countries, around 3,000 square meters. You can also see underneath the different colors of the orthophoto indicating that there's a different use of each of the parcels. So we have here excessive fragmentation, both of the ownership of the land and of the use of the land. And this is where it really becomes programmatic. At the same time, we also have in some of our program countries, and these things are really very much connected, land abandonment. So agricultural arable land that is suitable for production, but it's not used. We mapped this a couple of years ago, North Macedonia, just as an example, and found that in average, 32% of the arable land in North Macedonia is abandoned. But as you can see in the colors on the map, there's a huge variation from the different regions of this small country. So also an issue that is very much connected with the farm structures, but also with the generational renewal and the out-migration of young people from rural areas. And land markets in the Western Balkans, in Eastern Europe, and in Central Asia are at very different development stages. And why are land markets important? They are important because it's the land market that is giving the opportunity that you can transfer land from one owner, one user to another. So if you want to have access, then the normal way would be that you purchase land in the land market or you rent land in the agricultural land market. That can be state land, of course, and the state, we heard the interesting examples from Croatia of giving priorities to small farms, to local farmers, and to young farmers as well. Very interesting, and it also indicates that there is a need to regulate agricultural land markets. They are not like other markets of any other goods, used cars or whatever it could be. It's really a fundamental thing for what framework conditions we can provide for the family farms. The land markets are to a large degree determining this. So we have many countries also with a high degree of informality. Informality was already discussed, more that small farms are informal, but we also have informality in the land markets. That, for example, the owner that is the registered owner of the land has passed away, and maybe passed away 20 or 30 years ago. So we have maybe more than one generation of heirs that are unclear and undecided about who will take over the farm. Also one of the reasons why land becomes then abandoned. We have informal land transactions as well. So you may buy land from your neighbor or from a relative, but you do not manage to get it formalized. You do not register it in a land register. Also for this, there are many reasons. For example, complicated transaction procedures. It could be corruption in the system where there will be civil servants that we would expect that you pay corruption to have land registered, or very complicated and expensive procedures. If the transaction costs are more expensive than the value of the land, then of course you would not maybe have it formally registered. So, and the land prices is in several of the countries where there is not a regulation of the market. They are driven by speculation and not of what you can actually produce. And I think this is really perhaps the worst of all of it, that you have, for example, in Turkey, the land prices have doubled every year since the COVID pandemic. Imagine what this means to the land prices. Farmers that are getting older are just waiting for somebody to buy their land. And the buyers are not the young people or the young farmers, because they cannot afford it anymore. But it's rich Turks living in Germany or other countries in Europe that invest in agricultural land. And they're not really interested in the land for the production, but as an investment object. So we should really do whatever we can to get speculation out of the land markets. And we can only do that if we regulate them. If we regulate them too much, of course, then there's the other side, then there will be no transactions and limited development. So it's a delicate balance. But I think land markets is a key issue that we need to consider. Then there is also the UNDFF, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Peasants and Other People Working in Rural Areas. I will come back to that also in the panel discussion with a question or two. This is an important international document that was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2018, and the negotiation process took 6 years after it was in a very long process of getting on the agenda and getting the support needed to even start the discussions. It is about strengthening the rights of peasants, including through the rights to seeds, the rights to land, and the right to water, and also states shall take appropriate measures to provide legal recognition for land tenure rights, including customary land rights and also other legitimate tenure rights that are not protected by law. Yeah. Land consolidation was also mentioned a couple of times. Today I just want to show an example from some work that we are doing in North Macedonia, or have done in North Macedonia. This is one village in Bitola municipality in North Macedonia. The map to the left is the cadastre map before the project, and to the right after the project. And what we have done is that the number of owners is almost the same. Very few decided to sell their land in the process, and only, of course, fully voluntary. But in this area, there were 830 parcels before, and after there are now 200 and something, so that the parcel size has been increased with the factor 3.4. So we have increased the average size, and also we have provided access to roads, drainage, and irrigation in the area as well, or improved the system that was already in place. And the consolidation is also a way to give access to young farmers or to small farms, and allow them to have better shaped and larger parcels, but at the same time also the better access to the agricultural infrastructure. And if we are combining then land consolidation with investments, for example, in irrigation, then we will contribute not only to agricultural development, but also to climate adaptation. Because we can use then the water, and also in North Macedonia, we have a project in preparation where the water loss in the area that is in the Radovish Valley in Macedonia, where the water loss is 70% from the water comes from the reservoir in the mountain to it reaches the fields. So imagine that we can save water, but we can still provide much more water to the farmers. if we can reduce the loss of the water from 70 to maybe 20%, which is realistic with these investments that are being planned. So just to have this very short introduction, and now I would like to invite the panel members. First, Andrea Ferrante. Andrea is from the Scuola Campesina and representing the civil society perspective in the panel, and also the European Access to Land Network. Then I would like to invite from Kosovo, Venera Serkini, Secretary General from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development. I would like to invite Stefan Orosovic from North Macedonia. Stefan is the Executive Director of the National Federation of Farmers in North Macedonia. And finally, I would like to invite Lautaro Vizcaya, who we met already before in the second session, and Lautaro is stepping into this panel. It was not the planned, but the representative that we had planned will only be with us tomorrow. So thank you very much, Lautaro, for stepping into this discussion with a very short notice. So we will also have the Latin American perspective on the access to land discussion. We will have microphone. Yeah, maybe I sit here. We will have 2 rounds of questions and with the 4 panelists, and then we will open for questions and answer from you, from participants towards the end. So let me first turn to you, Andrea. And from the civil society perspective, what do you see are the main constraints and challenges for smallholders, small family farms, young farmers and women having access to land throughout the Europe and Central Asia region?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's say a very broad question that we can have the full week to answer. And it's clear that we saw how difficult is access to land. But I want to start from Uruguay. No? The first pillar is the right to food. If we don't have this kind of approach to the issue of access to land, so which kind of food system we want? Because it's all there. And it's super interesting that the FAO came out with a super interesting document on system approach on the food system in past July. The HLP report on food resilient food system just presented 2 weeks ago. It's there, the discussion. Which kind of food system we want? And then family farming plays a central role if you have this systematic approach. And then this means that youth can find themselves a future. What kind of future we are giving to a young farmer if we have no idea of the climate, we are not supporting family farming, we are not doing our job to guarantee the future. So this is a central element for a young person to take some choice. We saw before that we are attracting people. It's not anymore the issue of family. Also family in the 21st century is the same family as in the 20th century. No, it's something different. So we have a 3 pillar in family farming. We said capital from family, so from the group that is working, the work, and the third is knowledge. Knowledge is super important. So when we guarantee, and this is why it's so important to guarantee this transfer of knowledge inside family farming, because we need that. If we guarantee that, and this means recognize women's knowledge. One of the most important elements of knowledge of family farming is in the hands of women. Tell me which policy now is supporting the sharing of women's knowledge in the extension system. It's absent. So all those kind of things are essential to guarantee the access to land. And we need to see this right approach. And this is why, for example, in Europe, the observatory on land access that has to be grounded on the voluntary guidelines on land tenure. We have so many documents talking about how we should do sound land policy. And the most important is the voluntary guidelines on land tenure that is widely used, but we need to use it much more. And indeed, you said the UNDROP, the UN Declaration on Peasant Rights, Article 17, it's all about land. So we have also the institutional framework to guarantee that, and we need to give something that is sure for the future of youth and recognize the importance of women. Because if we don't do that, we can do all the best work on consolidation that is very important and other things, but we are not creating the condition for those people really to have a future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. And now let me turn to Venera. You're representing the government in Kosovo. Please tell us what are, as you see it, the main challenges to ensure access to land and other natural resources of the small farms, young farmers, and what is the ministry in particular doing also to make agriculture attractive to young people in rural areas, or to attract them, as we learned today, to rural areas?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Regarding to your question, I just want to start with that Kosovo is blessed by high quality of agricultural land, but small farms, women, young farmers, they are facing every day with challenges to accessing it. Farms are very critical. As everyone knows, without it, farmers cannot plant and even can sustain themselves. The big problem in Kosovo is fragmentation of the land, small lands. Most of farms in Kosovo are less than 2 hectares, with too many small plots in different places and far away from each other. This makes very problem for farmers to invest in modern tools, tractors, irrigation system, and so sometimes maybe they feel struggle to continue or not with their farming. Also, as everywhere, mostly older people are keep working with farming. Young people just start to leave villages to find new jobs in city. Also, climate change is another problem. Pollution, also soil problems can damage their crops, so maybe they can reduce their productivity. Ownership of the land is another problem. Some farmers do not know their property rights and may lose them. For example, one young woman who might not know needs of register in the cadastre, she might lose it. It happened in one village near Pristina, when one young woman do not register her property in cadastre for too many years. It was inherited property. And then one big company came and buy it. So they ended in the court, and now they will lost for too many years for a lost decision. As a government, we are very aware about farmer challenges by working daily with them. Our duty is to prepare policies and strategies. This time, to help, we have prepared 2 laws for consolidation of the land and also agricultural land. First one wants, the big aim is to to merge all the small plots in one big farm. And the second, as we want to make some new criteria and to allow only people who want to farm to have right to sell or to buy agricultural land. We, as a government, also we are using other measures to support farmers, as training, advisory services, and granted subsidies. So young farmers, as example of the Croatia, we are using also more points for young farmers until 14 years, and they have priority in all our programs. For example, we have supported one farmer from one village near Peja, and he has a benefit with for a grant with a land stay, and now his land stay is very famous. Everyone his land stay is visited by too many tourists. And also he has hired another farmers to sell in his farm milk, cheese, and other handmaids. So it's a good example how government can keep people inside the village and not let them go outside the villages. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venera. And now let me turn to you, Stefan. You're representing the farmers in North Macedonia. How are the farm structures in North Macedonia, and what are the key constraints for family farming in your country?
Thank you, Morten. I'm representing the National Federation of Farmers. That's the biggest association of farmers in North Macedonia. And I would rather to say also in Western Balkan, there is no comparable organization as ours in the Western Balkan. North Macedonia is a small country. It has around 450,000 hectares of arable land. Around 70% of that arable land is utilized, and there is around 100,000 agricultural households that use that land. One of the biggest constraints are not different from the previous discussions and elaborations in the keynotes that we had today. In general, the country with 1.8 million people is thriving with a lot of immigration, which makes the rural population less and less active in our areas and less present. Most of young people are leaving, and there is a big age difference from the farming that is today in comparison 20 years ago. Nowadays, one of the biggest constraints for farming activity and for family farms in our country is the workforce. We didn't mention that before, but workforce is something that is really important. You cannot find a seasonal labor in our country when it comes to agriculture activities, especially in the post-harvesting part. The second, and I'm not telling this under some kind of priority, but something that was not told before, the second is, of course, the climate change. It's a big constraint and a big challenge. There is a change in the climate, and we need to have implications from these climate changes being instructed in types of policies, education, awareness raising for family farms. This means that farmers need to become more productive, more efficient in their farming activities, and it starts in the production technology and finishes somewhere when they need to tackle the markets. The third, of course, very important is with what we also didn't mention before is the consumer awareness. Consumer awareness is a change that happened after COVID. Nowadays, we are looking for more food safety than ever. And we are opening more niche markets for food than ever. On one hand, we are striving with food security. On the other hand, we have consumers that demand more and more and more added value to their products. And these are again families, when young children, that demand that your product come from family farms, from farms where the added value to the product is visible. In that whole situation, one of the main preconditions to have a good farming activity, especially among the family farms where we have young people in North Macedonia, is the land. And the land, as in other countries that was mentioned before, is something that is the main precondition, but it's not only an ownership. You know, when you ask an older farmer in our country, he will tell you that he owns the land, that he is the master of a property. But when you discuss with a young person, he says that that is investment. And with this investment, he needs to invest more. He needs to put some other utilities on the farm so he can create profit and he can create life. For older farmer, it's a property. It's not an investment. And in this sense, there are many social and economic preconditions in this awareness that we need to change. So taking this into account, it's very hard also for young population in our country to find land or to enjoy the tenure rights so they can have a good and proper farming activity. Being aware of the fact that a lot of rural population is immigrating from rural areas, we have more and more land abandonment, as it was mentioned by Morten before. This creates two implications. The first implication is in terms of nature conservation and biodiversity, which is not bad, you know. More and more of agricultural land is becoming a new habitat for some other species. So it's kind of nature conservation that is happening nowadays on this agricultural land. But the other thing which is more important, as there's this abundant land, is not anymore any value for the rural population there. And then if we like to put it on, transform it back to agricultural land, we'll need more time, more money, and appropriate policies. So this is in general where I can put the Macedonian case of family farms in terms of the main priorities and problems, and to tackle some issues that were not mentioned before.
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, we will come back to you again in the second round. But now, to finish the first round, let me turn to you, Lautaro. As we heard already before, you were introduced in session 2, so I will not go into details with this again, but you are representing the REAF of the Mercosur. I would like to ask if you can briefly introduce us to the situation in Latin America and tell us what are the main constraints for the landless or to provide access to the landless, small family farms and young farmers in Latin America if you look across the different countries. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. En la región tenemos al menos 8 grandes áreas, ¿se escucha? Hay como un eco ahí. ¿Sí? ¿Aló? 8 grandes agendas que determinan el tema del acceso seguro a la tierra. Voy a mencionarlas nomás. La tierra en manos de mujeres está entre el 8 y el 30% en la región solamente. El 55% de las explotaciones son pequeñas y ocupan el 3% de la tierra. Los censos y catastros todavía son incompletos, insuficientes y no están actualizados. Es una de las regiones más violentas en materia de la opresión sobre los defensores de la tierra. Sigue siendo una región muy violenta y necesidad de paz y está muy atada al acceso a la tierra. El precio de la tierra del 2008 a la fecha se ha duplicado en el mercado. La deforestación es parte de esa especulación sobre la tierra. Solo 5% de los territorios están en manos de afrodescendientes con reconocimiento legal. Solo el 5%. Todos los pueblos indígenas de nuestra región siguen en su gran mayoría sin reconocimiento legal sobre la tierra. Ese es un cuadro, una aproximación a un cuadro de situación de la región de América Latina y Caribe. Ahora bien, convive con esa situación presente y de histórica, de asimetría en el acceso seguro a la tierra y reconocimiento de la tierra sobre los pueblos afrodescendientes indígenas, convive una serie de experiencias y retos para poder avanzar y escalar. Voy a mencionar algunos de ellos. Gracias a la cooperación con FAO, cooperación técnica de muchos años, pero principalmente este último periodo, encargamos un estudio de políticas comparadas. Como insumo para un programa regional de intercambio de acceso a la tierra que realizamos en el 2024. Estuvimos en Guatemala, estuvimos en Brasil y estuvimos, subsecretario, en Uruguay, visitando el Instituto Nacional de Colonización, organizaciones de la agricultura familiar y gobiernos. Conclusiones de este intercambio, 3 países, pero muchos países participando en esas visitas. Algunas conclusiones que nos llevaron a escribir una recomendación sobre tierras presentada recientemente en Manaus, en el Amazonas, en Brasil, en la presidencia de Brasil en el Mercosur. Y voy a pasar a comentarles en concreto sobre esas propuestas que vienen a tratar de mitigar todos estos 8 grandes problemas que les mencionaba recién. Lo primero, se ha definido en diálogo con las organizaciones la ampliación de estrategias de políticas de reforma agraria como banco de tierras y créditos fundiarios y otras medidas que permitan el acceso equitativo a la tierra. Segundo, mecanismos complementarios a la compra de tierra, como arriendos garantizados, recuperación de tierras degradadas y alianzas territoriales. Además de establecer incentivos fiscales para la transferencia generacional y sistemas de pensión rural, facilitando la continuidad de la agricultura familiar y el relevo generacional. Como innovación del estudio comparado con la FAO, la experiencia que vimos en Estados Unidos sobre el incentivo a las pensiones para el envejecimiento en el campo y que pueda haber un sistema de apoyo a la pensión anticipada para que esa tierra pueda quedar en manos de la juventud. Lo mismo sobre el arriendo, ¿no? En la vejez, que pueda retirarse con incentivos de pensión y pueda ofertar la tierra a jóvenes. Esto también es parte de un incentivo al retiro. Nos pareció interesante y lo hemos incluido dentro de las recomendaciones al Mercosur. Fortalecer la capacidad institucional de organismos responsables de gobernanza de la tierra, dotándolo de herramientas y recursos adecuados para diseño e implementación de programas de acceso a la tierra. Incentivos financieros como crédito, financiamiento diferenciado y participación de las organizaciones en todo el proceso. Cuarto, modernización de los sistemas de administración de tierras, fortaleciendo los catastros de tierras y sistemas de ordenamiento territorial que faciliten información actualizada y orienten la implementación de políticas. Nos hemos inspirado en el Instituto Nacional de Colonización, algo que mostró el ingeniero Carámbula, si vieron el mapa de Uruguay, todo lo que son las parcelas catastrales, pero subordinadas a una estrategia política de seguridad a nivel nacional y de acceso a la tierra. Y como decía el colega, si pensamos qué tipo de sistema alimentario, pensaría, ¿y la tierra para quién? Creo que esto permite el ordenamiento territorial también ser un instrumento válido al momento de aplicación de políticas públicas y de participación del Estado en el mercado de tierras. El caso de Uruguay es emblemático en ese sentido. Terminando ya, hemos recomendado al Mercosur fortalecer los programas de asistencia técnica e inversión conectados con la estrategia de acceso a la tierra. Esto garantiza la tenencia y garantice un apoyo transversal de la agricultura familiar, no solo de los ministerios de tierras y desarrollo rural, sino también a nivel transversal en otros órganos de gobiernos que tienen responsabilidad en el proceso. Lo vimos y está en la recomendación, no solo podemos dar una garantía segura de tenencia de la tierra, tanto para las mujeres o para los jóvenes, garantizando una seguridad jurídica, sino existe un soporte ecosistémico de salud, transporte, educación, que permita el desarrollo de un sistema alimentario inclusivo y sostenible. Sin esos otros elementos es muy complejo que, aún dando el título de la tierra, pueda haber un desarrollo exponencial, escalable en el tiempo. Finalmente, el acceso a financiamiento y titularidad debe ser progresiva. Las mujeres deben contar con acceso equitativo, financiamiento y asistencia técnica, que, como bien mencionados, las mujeres siguen siendo invisibles en muchos sistemas de asistencia técnica y extensión rural y principalmente invisibilizadas cuando estos sistemas se habla de acceso seguro a la tierra y a su tenencia. Básicamente eso. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Yeah, now to the second round, and yeah, let's try if we can keep the answers to 3-4 minutes each. And I will again begin with you, Andrea. And I mentioned already UNDROP in my introduction, and also the right to land. How do you see that UNDROP can help us or support the efforts of making access to land of small family farms and other vulnerable groups?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that in this dialogue, it's clear that UNDROP is there and someone is using, someone is not using. What we heard, it's an accumulation of rights that you will read in the UNDROP. We are not using this document that is an essential document approved by the General Assembly at the end of 2018, and there is everything. We need to translate what is a rights approach in policies. And it's not by chance that in the Global Action Plan of the decade, UNDROP is there beside the UNDRIP and the VGGT. You have a clear article on access to land. It's clear that we have a problem of rights there. And we need to use all our imagination, because most probably just say that we need a market on land is not enough. We need to use a bit more imagination. We need to understand better how is the land tenure in our country. And in our countries, in this region especially, it's so diversified, we need to use much more imagination. But with this idea, as we just heard from Latin America, that it's not only the right to land that can solve the problem of the access to land. We need to guarantee at the same time all the other rights to make possible that the use of this land is a sustainable use in the time. And this is essential. I have two other articles in the UN Declaration on Peasant Rights that for me are fundamental, like education and training. It's a right. We need to change our system of education and training, and it's directly linked to how we use our land, our soil, how we protect our soil. We are, in this agri-industrial model, we are an extractivist way to use our soil. Without any sustainability, the desertification is there. It's not the desert, it's that there is no organic matter anymore. And we have millions of documents on soil health, but we are not using. So this is why we need to change our approach about education and training. We need to use as much as we can the traditional knowledge that we have a dialogue between the different knowledge. And this is why UNDROP has to be much more in our policies and not in our shelf, I think. We should use much more UNDROP. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Andrea, now coming back to Kosovo, and Venera, you mentioned already in your first intervention the efforts made by the government and the ministry to regulate the agricultural land market. Could you say a few more words on this? Why do you see, because many countries, or most countries among our program countries do not have really a regulation. They have maybe a regulation that is preventing foreigners from buying agricultural land, but that is more or less the only regulation that they have. So I think the example of Kosovo is interesting, and also to hear what were the political considerations behind this, and why you thought that there was a need for this regulation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Today in Kosovo, everyone can buy land inside the country. Without any plan of farming, sometimes some big investors buy agricultural land without using it. This makes harder for farmers to get agricultural land. With the new law, we have planned to stop all investors to buy agricultural land if they are not farming. This will protect agricultural land and also will give opportunity for new farmers. For foreign citizens, we allow them, but with strict criteria. So they are allowed to buy land in Kosovo, but with some restrictions. Kosovo has around 8,000 hectares state land, so we plan that 23,000 hectares to rent for our young farmers. So it's cheaper, it's faster to benefit from the ministry. Instead of buying expensive lands, they can rent it. For example, one farmer from Perizai, his name is Trimor. He has, I remember him because he's from my city. He has rented 3 hectares for riceberry. Now he has one big company. He has hired too many farmers. He gets benefits from ministry with machinery and some another tools. So it's a good example that for other farmers, young farmers, to stay in village. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, Stefan, I mentioned already in the introduction the FAO support to land consolidation in North Macedonia. And you have been part of the process from the beginning, representing the farmers in the steering committee in the EU-funded project that we are finalizing now. How do you see that the family farmers in your country are benefiting from land consolidation and could continue to do it in the future?
Thank you, Morten. I would like to say that this process, which is ongoing almost for 7-8 years, through 2 projects, is thanks to FAO and to the great experience, and to you personally, Morten, being involved in this process, has helped to our institutions to move some processes forward. Land consolidation for North Macedonia is a very important process because it's from one side structural reform of the agriculture sector. From the other side, it provides a lot of opportunities that were missed during the process of transition, since the country has been almost for 45 years centralized in different regime. After this transition, the land that was possessed by the farmers was heavily parcelized, and average our farm size is close to 2.5 hectares, which means that it is to close in 6 to 8 parcels. So it's a really small farm. And taking into account how many parcels it has, it's really hard to have efficient and effective production on this farmland. The land consolidation process helps this and assists in many ways. First, let's speak a little bit about the economic effects of the land consolidation process. Through this process, the farms become bigger. That means that the size of the farm represents a big business investment with which you can work. That means that you can control and manage the farm better. When it comes to land consolidation in economic aspect, there is organization and structural reform of the whole system. That means that there is irrigation, there is other agriculture infrastructure that will help the farmers to produce cheaper and to provide better quality for their products. In other sense, not only economically, but in terms of socially, we discuss here about different approaches and how to translate the human rights into different policies, not only through the governments, but also to raise the awareness of the people in the rural areas that they are enjoying some rights, that they are the right holders, and that they should not expect for someone to give them their rights, but they should ask for their rights. That's what we as organization do through a long time human rights-based approach, where in 2018 immediately we engaged to our government on the UNDROP's declaration to put it into different policies, which are nowadays part of some policies for development of rural areas of the government of North Macedonia. But not only that. When it comes to this whole process of land consolidation, they are encouraged specifically two groups of people. One are the youth population, the other are the women. Why? Because we still believe that these are the strong pillars of the rural communities. Rural women still represent, however the families look nowadays compared to 20th century, rural women represent one of the pillars of the family farming and the rural community, and the youth is the force forward to move the agriculture. In that sense, with the focus on these two specific demographic groups, we try to help them and assist them to specific policies and to encourage them to invest and to remain in these areas. This means that these policies are linked to the process of land consolidation. How? They encourage rural women to take investment. If also rural woman is a holder or owner or manager of the land, then she will receive more subsidies by the state. It goes also the same for the youth population. That is something that the moment we have in the policies. This is my timer, I will take 1 minute more. And aside of that, aside of these social rights, where we are doing different approaches, especially a gender transformative approach, where the rural women were completely invisible in some certain times, especially in the Western Balkans. Nowadays, they are becoming more and more visible. 4 to 5% of women were owners of agricultural land in 2002. Nowadays, they are 14%, which is really something that is done in 20 years. Also, when it comes to environment, so we speak about economic, social, and environmental benefits of the land consolidation process. The land consolidation process offers better spatial planning. It keeps the sustainability onwards. It helps the nature conservation and biodiversity, but also helps the farmer live with the land and with the nature, not from the land and from the nature, with the land and with the nature. And I would finish here, I would say that if we put efforts to strengthen the population in rural areas, if we help them not only to become better farmers, but also to help them to associate themselves, to join themselves. You know, there is one of the EU policies on common market organization promotes producer groups. These are groups of family farmers that need to keep together. If we strengthen the farmers and family farms in the rural areas, we are creating more resilient rural communities. And if we have more resilient rural communities, we have development, let's say sustainable development. Thank you.
And the last question in the panel, and that's to you, Lautaro. You have now listened to the discussion, and you also participated in it yourself. But you listened to the discussion about access to land in Europe and Central Asia, and I think it would be very interesting to hear from you, your reflections on what you have heard. Perhaps you have some recommendations also for us in Europe and Central Asia.
Muchas gracias. Muy interesante todo el panel. Muchísimas gracias. Pude aprender bastante también. Vamos a transferir este conocimiento, a compartirlo en nuestra región. Con mucha humildad, porque es muy difícil con tanta diversidad y diferencia en muchos temas históricos en tema de la tierra, pero algunas recomendaciones que adoptamos nosotros, que nos permitieron pensar en una propuesta de directrices de política. Claramente, considerando las directrices voluntarias que mencionaba el colega, todo lo que es el marco normativo de orientación a nivel global que tenemos. Lo primero que vemos es la importancia de conocer la demanda. ¿Cuál es la demanda por el acceso a la tierra? Modos, tipos y quiénes están demandando. Esto nos permite ordenar la demanda y repensar la política. Pero si no sabemos quiénes están dispuestos a acceder, ¿no? En qué modo, ¿no? Y para qué, es muy difícil planificar la política. Segundo, mercados de tierras más transparentes. Este es uno de los factores, en nuestra región al menos, de reclamo de la sociedad. El mercado de tierras no es transparente. Los catastros son confusos, títulos por sobretítulos. Y esto muchas gracias, no contribuye a transparentar luego la implementación de políticas. Entonces, seguridad en la tenencia, capacidad del Estado para articular el ordenamiento territorial es una recomendación, si no es el Estado quien organiza el territorio. Y este es un factor clave pensando en recursos. El ordenamiento territorial, los sistemas de monitoreo, información y tasaciones de la tierra. ¿Cuál es el precio de la tierra? ¿Cómo nuestras series históricas y de qué manera no tenemos que ir a un Estado que interviene, ¿no?, en el precio, pero sí que ordena el acceso y prioriza de acuerdo al sistema alimentario que está pensando? Hoy se habló, alguien mencionó la agricultura familiar como parte de una estrategia de seguridad nacional. Bueno, si no hablamos de tierra en este enclave de esa seguridad alimentaria, de planificación, de ordenamiento, de recuperación de suelos, del agua, hablamos de drenaje, riego. Bueno, es el Estado quien puede ordenar y transparentar esto. Finalmente, mecanismos solidarios de financiamiento. Este es un punto clave que nos abrió la cabeza a nosotros. ¿Es solamente el presupuesto público el que está disponible? ¿O hay otros fondos para poder, fideicomisos? ¿Hay otros mecanismos financieros que permitan el acceso a la tierra? La tierra de uso comunitario es un tema que se viene a instalar para los próximos 30, 40, 50 años. Lo hemos conversado con las comunidades rurales. ¿Puede ser parte del ahorro de una comunidad rural tener su propio mercado de tierras? Creo que el tema de financiamiento diversificado debemos explorarlo y es un aprendizaje que estamos teniendo. Pues nos quedamos todavía con una figura del Estado, compra la tierra y la pone a disposición. Creo que eso se terminó, o por lo menos estamos muy lejos de lo que era. Hoy necesitamos una canasta multi-inversiones y el financiamiento también puede ser privado o de la comunidad. Finalmente, fondos de inversión o donaciones. Repensar los sistemas de herencia. Es un tema en nuestro Mercosur clave, principalmente en Argentina, pero también en Uruguay, también en Brasil. Es un tema complejo, la transferencia intergeneracional de la tierra. Hay que apoyar con instrumentos innovadores esa transferencia intergeneracional. Es el papá que no quiere dejar, cada vez vive más años, y el hijo que se desmoraliza por no poder tomar el comando del sistema productivo familiar. Entonces, ¿cuáles son los instrumentos que permiten esa transición intergeneracional, ¿no? ¿De qué manera se puede dar en paz y de manera inclusiva? ¿Bien? Y un lugar para las mujeres. Generalmente en nuestra región, en la herencia intergeneracional, la mujer es expulsada. Quedan los varones en la titularidad. Hay que acompañar esas nuevas transferencias intergeneracionales con instrumentos innovadores. Ni hablar que las mujeres hoy están mucho más capacitadas, pues son las que en el caso argentino la familia la expulsa para estudiar afuera. Una vez que está muy capacitada, tampoco puede acceder a la dirección de la organización productiva. Allí el Estado tiene que ayudar. La vida con resguardo legítimo de herederos y lo que hablábamos hoy del retiro acompañado. El incentivo a retirarme con pensiones adecuadas que estén al servicio y es mucho más barato para el Estado y para la sociedad en su conjunto. Creo que la relación era 5 activos trabajadores pueden retirar un viejo, en el buen sentido viejo, con amor, del campo, que permanece en el campo pero con una jubilación digna. 5 por 1. Es posible. Hay que pensarlo junto a los ministerios de Economía y los ministerios de Protección Social. Allí los ministerios de Agricultura tienen que golpear la puerta de esos otros ministerios para decir, no tengo toda la solución, ayúdame a rediseñarlo. Los sistemas de pensiones rurales no son igual que los urbanos. Tienen que ser pensados de otra manera. Y los bancos de tierra, como recomendación. También repensarlos, pero hoy es parte central por la crisis climática. Un Estado, un país, una región que se desligue de su responsabilidad sobre la tierra, se está ligando a una crisis climática brutal. Por lo tanto, hay que pensar los bancos de tierra, no solo en función de la seguridad alimentaria, pero sí en función de la crisis climática presente. Esto es un reto para toda la sociedad y hay que pensar en instrumentos innovadores. Son esas las sugerencias, muy humildemente, para compartir. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. Indeed, very interesting. Also, the last part about land banks, I think many countries in Europe also have, in particular in Western Europe, also have land banks and also has started to use these land banks for the implementation of projects related to climate change, environmental protection, and these issues, in addition to the traditional purposes of agriculture. So I would very much be interested to continue the exchange on this and see what we can learn also from Latin America in this respect. And now we have some 10 minutes left before we will go for the aperitivo or the small reception. And let's have the last questions for the panel. Natalia, please.
Just one question. I'm not sure that the translation was fine. Did you say that only 5% of indigenous people have registered farms? Is it correct?
Gracias. Sí, con titularidad, Sí, Natalia, con titularidad, 5%. Ese número varía según país. No son datos de ahora, son 2022, 2023, según la FAO. Brasil ha mejorado la titularidad a los pueblos indígenas 2024 y ahora 2025. ¿Qué es lo que diría el presidente César Aldrigui del INCRA si estuviera aquí hoy? Hemos mejorado a indígenas y afrodescendientes la titularidad, pero a nivel Brasil.
Gives a completely different light on my understanding of farm structure in your countries. Thank you.
We have time for a couple of more questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I'm Nasser Krasnic. I'm FAO representative in Kosovo. And here I would like to thank all panelists for their great discussions and contributions. What I would like here to ask, maybe Morten, you can briefly mention this access to land indicator of the EFID. This was something that was, I think, regularly monitored through this indicator. There are scorecards for each country. I don't know how much the needs of the family farms are incorporated into this indicator and how this can contribute to improve the indicator and to see what are the status of the land, access to land by the family farms. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I remember the figures exactly, but I think it is very important to keep track on these things, and also that is why there are these discussions ongoing of a European land observatory. Because we cannot formulate policies if we do not know what is really the situation. So there is this in process that the EU will establish for EU member countries land observatory institution, and there's already the global land observatory also discussions and work ongoing, where the FAO land tenure team here in Rome is deeply involved in both of these processes. I don't know, Andrea, do you want to say something about this?
Yes, this is a great challenge, the European Land Observatory, because it indeed will, let's say, affect all the region, not only European Union, because we know all the accession policy in that sense. And indeed, we will ask really that the rules of the European Land Observatory, let's follow the idea that the voluntary guidelines on land tenure promote participatory process. And the European Land Observatory needs to be a participatory process. Today, the global one is a bit, let's say, we don't feel totally this feeling of participatory process. We need to understand better what are the data. Data is an essential issue because we need to control those data. We need to use those data in a way that we protect also the data that we are giving. So those are essential elements. We need absolutely the European Land Observatory, but we need to have a European Land Observatory with full participation of the actors. And this means all of us in that sense. And so we will really want, and in that sense, we need FAO also beside us in this sense, because we need to open really the discussion with the European Commission. You know, we Europeans, we have a problem. We approve the document like the voluntary guidelines on land tenure, and then we think that it's for the South, for the global South, and we just forget that it's for everyone. So we need sometimes that the FAO help us to remind that it's a document that we should implement, all of us. Thank you.
Time for one last question, if there is. No? Then we finish exactly on time. Let's give the hand for the panel. And then the aperitivo is in the Russian lounge, and if I understood it right, and I'm sure that there's somebody here who can explain it better than me, but it's on the 8th floor. And when you come out of the elevator, then you go towards the north side of the building, right? Yeah, in that end of the cafeteria, if I understood it right. So see you there.